The film begins with a beautiful woman in her 30s named Ji-won, so she's famous for writing webtoons. Despite achieving her dreams, Ji-won hasn't found a partner yet. Her two best friends, Run-ju and Eun-young, are in the same boat. All three have been single for a few years. Run-ju is a popular radio host with lots of fans, while Eun-young owns a fancy cafe loved by rich people. They'd often meet up at Eun-young's cafe to talk about their love lives, which have been unsuccessful so far. Fun fact, Run-ju is picky and wants a wealthy partner, while Eun-young values happiness more than money. And as for Ji-won, she doesn't like men who smoke, but can make exceptions for good-looking and successful ones. One day, Ji-won gets a new employee at her office named Lee Sung-yu. He'll be her personal editor. When Ji-won first sees Sung-yu, she's captivated by his good looks. They go to a bar together, and it turns out Sung-yu was Ji-won's high school friend and first love who had disappeared. Now he's back, and it's uncertain whether he's here to stay or just visiting. Meanwhile, Run-ju is on a blind date with a really rich lawyer. She takes him to Eun-young's cafe and orders an expensive beer. Then, she surprises him by ordering a whiskey for 500,000 won. At that time, they both drink too much and lose control. On the other hand, Ji-won and Sung-yu are hanging out at a cafe. Ji-won keeps playfully teasing Sung-yu for leaving without saying anything before. Sung-yu doesn't back down and almost kisses Ji-won. Back to Run-ju, she and her date, who couldn't control their desires because they were drunk, end up going to a hotel together. Meanwhile, Eun-young meets a mysterious man who visits her cafe. In the morning, Run-ju felt really sorry for kissing a man she had only known for an hour. On the same day, Ji-won arrived at her office, and Sung-yu warmly welcomed her. But Ji-won was uncomfortable because she didn't want her colleagues to find out she was close to her subordinates due to her position as a director. During a meeting, she asked Sung-yu to act like they had no relationship at work. Later in the afternoon, Ji-won and Run-ju met up at Eun-young's cafe. They were visited by a mysterious man who had been lurking around Eun-young's cafe the day before. Currently, Eun-young has gone missing, and Ji-won and Run-ju are trying to find her. It's said that when they were in college, Eun-young fell in love at first sight with a mysterious man named Byung, who was stalking her cafe. Eun-young and Byung fell for each other instantly and started dating officially not long after. They had a happy relationship for years and even planned to get married right after college. Unfortunately, Eun-young caught Byung cheating and kissing another woman, which broke her heart. Despite being strong, she couldn't escape the pain. Since then, she decided to avoid love altogether due to the trauma she experienced. Fast forward to the present, Ji-won and Run-ju located Eun-young, who was alone in a forest, feeling down about her past. They decided to have a few drinks together to lift Eun-young's spirits. After Eun-young and Run-ju fell asleep, Ji-won called Sung-yu to apologize for her earlier rude behavior. In the conversation, Ji-won accidentally mentioned that she didn't have a boyfriend yet, which made Sung-yu happy and Ji-won embarrassed. Long story short, the next day, Ji-won bumped into a handsome man named Sha Do-hoon at a laundromat. Coincidentally, he was the director of their current webtoon project, a romantic story set to be released soon. Meanwhile, Run-ju was feeling upset about making out with a guy who works at Eun-young's cafe, hoping to keep his attention. The guy, Jun-young, is 24 years old, 6 years younger than Run-ju. Later at home, Ji-won received a message from Sung-yu inviting her somewhere. By accident, Ji-won replied to Sung-yu's message. In the afternoon, Sung-yu came over to Ji-won's house, and they went to a place together. At that time, they revisited their high school, reliving all the activities they used to do together, from entering school, walking together, to studying side by side. They were having a great time, laughing together, until a school security guard unexpectedly checked their class. Luckily, they managed to hide and avoid getting caught. After their school tour, they sat down to have a drink. Sung-yu began sharing a story about the time when Ji-won thought he had rejected her love. In reality, Sung-yu had never meant to turn down Ji-won, but there was a misunderstanding. Ji-won, just waking up, was shocked to realize that she hadn't listened to Sung-yu's explanation a long time ago. Feeling guilty, she asked Sung-yu how he felt. However, she changed the topic as if he had given up hope. Ji-won, playing along, understood that she couldn't deceive her heart anymore and innocently invited Sung-yu to spend the night with her. They quickly went to a hotel after that. While they were getting intimate, Ji-won saw Sung-yu's phone ringing, and a woman named Lee Hae-ryum was calling. Ji-won was surprised but decided to ignore her suspicions to avoid misunderstandings and slept with Sung-yu. The next day, Ji-won was in a cheerful mood and went to Young's cafe to hang out with her two best friends. There, Young introduced her to Jun-young, who was acquainted with Runju and had gone on a blind date with her, eventually making out. Shortly after, Runju joined them with a slightly upset expression. They all got a bit tipsy while talking about their lives. Ji-won, who had been with Sung-yu, even mentioned her intimate time with him. This surprised Young and Runju because they hadn't heard that Ji-won was dating or sleeping with a guy before. Despite their concerns, Ji-won trusted Sung-yu and believed he wouldn't hurt her or betray her again. However, Runju, with more experience, said that if a guy doesn't contact her after being intimate, he might not be a good person. Upon hearing that, Ji-won fell silent because it was true. Despite their thing the day before, Sung-yu had not contacted her yet. Meanwhile, Sung-yu himself was meeting with his girlfriend, Hae-ryung, who had called him yesterday. After days passed, Sung-yu still hadn't contacted Ji-won even though she tried calling and messaging him after their date. It had been 2 days, and Ji-won was feeling worried. But when she decided to make one last call, Sung-yu finally answered. However, his response seemed as if nothing significant had happened. Ji-won felt a bit disappointed, but when she turned around, she saw Sung-yu approaching her with a smile. With his charm, Sung-yu quickly melted Ji-won's heart. Even though she had been upset with him for 3 days, she instantly became happy when he said he really missed her. After Ji-won felt happy again, Sung-yu drove her home. In her yard, before Sung-yu left, Ji-won honestly shared her disappointment from the previous day about him disappearing without a word after they were doing that thing. However, with his seductive words, Sung-yu managed to make Ji-won smile once again. Meanwhile, at Young's cafe, Bi-young arrived and tried to reconnect with Young. Surprisingly, she refused the invitation and even poured a bucket of ice over Bi-young. She firmly stated that she didn't want to see him again, let alone get back in touch with the man who had caused her so much pain. In the evening, Ji-won agreed to Sung-yu's invitation to watch a movie he had made, which was soon to be released. However, when they got to the cinema, Sung-yu ignored her and welcomed other VIP guests instead. Inside the cinema, Ji-won met Do-hoon. Every time she saw or made eye contact with him, Ji-won felt really awkward. Sung-yu eventually joined her, and they watched the film together. After the movie ended, Sung-yu asked Ji-won to wait for something very important before they left. While he was leaving, Do-hoon gave Ji-won a piercing look that left her feeling a bit embarrassed. Now, Ji-won waited for Sung-yu in his car. That's when she found a heart-shaped necklace with Sung-yu and Hae-ryung's initials on it. It surprised her, but Ji-won tried to act like nothing was wrong. However, when Sung-yu showed her a photo of their next destination, Hae-ryung called him. At that moment, Ji-won realized that Sung-yu indeed had another girlfriend. However, with his charm, Sung-yu managed to convince Ji-won that he and Hae-ryung had broken up and were no longer together. Meanwhile, at Young's cafe, Runju arrived with her new blind date, who was older and more successful than Jun-young. She did it intentionally in front of Jun-young to make him not have any expectations. However, Jun-young, being determined, believed that Runju did this because she was afraid of falling in love with him, a man 6 years younger than her, while she was just an ordinary cafe worker. It turned out to be true because after the blind date, Runju looked downcast and sad. Sadly, the date didn't go well, and Runju didn't like the person who invited her to sleep together without first winning her heart. Annoyed, she eventually returned to Young's cafe. There, she couldn't help but be drawn to the warm atmosphere that Jun-young provided. The next day, Ji-won went to her office still feeling suspicious about Sung-yu. However, his seductive skills melted her doubts when he was about to kiss her. It turned out that Do-hoon knew about the kiss. During their discussion about the upcoming webtoon, Do-hoon teased Ji-won by mentioning a female character who would suffer because of her boyfriend's infidelity, as the woman would choose to stay with him despite knowing he was cheating. Hearing that, Ji-won was surprised and realized the implication. Just as she was processing this, Sung-yu entered and changed the mood. Later, they had tea together, and Ji-won, feeling more confident after Do-hoon's words, asked Sung-yu directly about Hae-ryung's true identity. The scene then shifted to show the meeting between Sung-yu and Hae-ryung and what happened during that meeting. At that time, Sung-yu ended his relationship with Hae-ryung. Back to the present, it turned out that Ji-won hadn't actually asked about Hae-ryung to Sung-yu, cause it was just an illusion. And as of now, Ji-won still didn't know that Sung-yu and Hae-ryung had broken up. Meanwhile, Runju and Junyoung have patched things up. There, Junyoung tells Runju that during their blind date, they didn't get intimate, but he took care of her when she got very drunk. Since that incident, he has developed strong feelings for her. Now, Runju asks Junyoung if he truly likes her, and in response he kisses her to show his affection. The next day, Ji-won returns to meet Eun-young to talk about Sung-yu, who unexpectedly came back. However, as she pours out her feelings, a mysterious person arrives at her cafe, and it turns out to be Hae-ryung. The scene then shifts to a flashback when Ji-won called Sung-yu to tell him she didn't have a boyfriend. During that call, Hae-ryung was also present and overheard Ji-won's words. Since that incident, Hae-ryung has been trying to gather information about Ji-won and eventually tracked her down to Eun-young's cafe. At that time, Hae-ryung asks Ji-won about her relationship with Sung-yu, and Ji-won responds that they are just a writer and an editor. Hearing this, Hae-ryung reveals that she has been dating Sung-yu for over a year and firmly states that she won't break up with him. In a firm tone, Hae-ryung told Ji-won to break up with Sung-yu. As she left, Hae-ryung also mentioned that Ji-won was merely a curiosity for Sung-yu. She added that Sung-yu had changed his phone number and would contact Ji-won. On the other hand, Sung-yu couldn't stop thinking about Ji-won rejecting his invitation to go out. It appeared that Sung-yu was now genuinely in love with Ji-won and not just playing around. Later in the evening, Ji-won finally confided in Eun-young about her situation, where the man she truly loved was toying with her feelings. After the conversation, Eun-young asked Ji-won what she planned to do next. With heavy heart, Ji-won said she would end her relationship with Sung-yu. After letting out her emotions, Ji-won returned home feeling heartbroken. To her surprise, Sung-yu was waiting for her in the yard. Seeing her coming, Sung-yu used his charm and kissed her. That night, Ji-won found it hard to focus on work as she was torn between staying with Sung-yu or ending the relationship. Feeling conflicted, she decided to do some laundry to take her mind off Sung-yu and Hae-ryung. At the laundromat, she unexpectedly ran into Do-hoon, who turned out to live nearby. During that time, Do-hoon, who was already aware of the kiss between Ji-won and Sung-yu, warned Ji-won not to mix her personal life with work. However, Ji-won, who didn't take kindly to his advice, telling that she was indeed dating Sung-yu, and asked him not to meddle in her affairs any further. Afterward, Ji-won left the laundromat. However, outside, Do-hoon stopped her just to return the clothes she had left behind. Before parting, he revealed that he also had someone he strongly disliked, yet he still missed and loved that person. Later that evening at his home, Do-hoon received a message from Ji-won apologizing for her earlier behavior. Upon reading that, Do-hoon feeling shy, thinking he might have feelings for Ji-won. The following day, Runju was upset when she came across an article stating that the radio channel she often listened to would be discontinued, which meant she would lose her job there. This news left her heartbroken and deeply saddened. However, in her moment of sorrow, she recalled Junyoung's encouraging words. Because of this, Runju felt good again and went on to host her final broadcast. Then, after a long day of work, Runju was surprised to find Junyoung waiting in the parking lot. Despite Junyoung's cheerful demeanor, Runju didn't smile. Instead, she invited him to go straight home. On their way, Runju still feels sad and thinking about her fate as an unemployed person. However, Junyoung took her to a car wash not to lift her spirits, but to provide her with a safe space to release her emotions and cry, letting her to let go of the burdens she was carrying. The next day, Ji-won met Eun-young again at her cafe. At that time, they chatted for a while, and she asked about Ji-won's boyfriend. At that time, Eun-young advised Ji-won to make a decision about her relationship with her boyfriend before things got too complicated. Meanwhile, Do-hoon was reading a webtoon created by Ji-won. He noticed that the webtoon's story and characters were similar to Ji-won's real-life situation with Sung-yu. Do-hoon met Ji-won and asked about the next chapter of her webtoon, wondering if the characters would reunite. Ji-won didn't know how to respond. Later that evening, Sung-yu got fired from his project because Ji-won had asked her company to remove him as the editor of her webtoon. On way home, Do-hoon asked Ji-won to collaborate on a script related to her webtoon for a movie he was working on. He thought it would be a hit. Ji-won agreed, but then Sung-yu showed up and made things awkward. Soon after, Do-hoon left to avoid the tension. The scene shifts back in time a few hours. So after Sung-yu got fired from his job, he hurried to meet Ji-won. But when he reached the parking lot, he bumped into Hae-ryung, who told him that Ji-won wouldn't accept him anymore. Hearing this, Sungyu insisted that he was done with Hae-ryung and that he loved Ji-won now. Fast forward to the present, Sungyu is at Ji-won's house, wondering why she didn't contact him when Hae-ryung saw them together. Instead of answering, Ji-won asked Sungyu when he broke up with Hae-ryung. There, Sungyu admitted that he broke up with Hae-ryung while dating Ji-won. Hearing that disappointed Ji-won, and she kicked him out, ending their relationship. Sungyu left feeling confused. The next day, Sungyu was sitting alone when Do-hoon approached him to ask about his firing by Ji-won. Before Sungyu could respond, Ji-won joined them and discussed their movie collaboration. There, Do-hoon said he would revise the script with Ji-won, which made Sungyu jealous. At that time, they were invited to eat together and went to a restaurant. After they finished eating, it started raining heavily. Ji-won didn't have an umbrella, so Sungyu kindly offered to walk her home. But suddenly, Hae-ryung showed up and claimed Sungyu was her boyfriend. Because of the rain, they all decided to go back to the restaurant. During this time, Hae-ryung intentionally tried to make Ji-won jealous by talking about their past romance. This made Ji-won feel uneasy, because Sungyu didn't deny Hae-ryung's words and seemed to still care for her. When the rain finally stopped, Ji-won, who wanted to go home, was stopped by Sungyu, who wanted to explain the misunderstanding. However, Ji-won, feeling hurt, ignored him and even called him a heartbreaker. On her way home, Do-hoon approached Ji-won and took her somewhere. Meanwhile, in the radio studio, Runju successfully completed her final recording with encouragement from Jun-young. When she returned home, Jun-young was waiting for her and greeted her warmly. On the other hand, now Ji-won is at Do-hoon's house, watching something together. It seems like Do-hoon is trying to win Ji-won's heart. After they finish watching, he takes her home. On the way, he advises Ji-won to move on from Sungyu and not expect him to return, as he believes Sungyu won't change. He also invites Ji-won to focus on their project to make their names even more famous. Ji-won, feeling appreciated by Do-hoon's attention, shakes his hand as a sign that she has moved on from Sungyu. The next day, Do-hoon walks with Ji-won again to make sure she has moved on from Sungyu. Suddenly, they get a call from their employee with bad news about Ji-won trending on the internet. The news reports that Ji-won is involved with her subordinate and labels her as someone who steals other people's girlfriends. This ruins her reputation as a famous webtoon writer she had built for years. It turns out that Hae-ryung wrote this bad news, thinking that Ji-won caused her breakup with Sungyu by stealing him. This unpleasant issue leads film and webtoon production companies to boycott Ji-won's work. At that time, Do-hoon tries to convince the production company, but his efforts fail. Meanwhile, Young and Runju are annoyed with Hae-ryung for tarnishing Ji-won's name, even though it was Sungyu who was in the wrong. On the other hand, Hae-ryung is now with Sungyu, who is angry with her for saying bad things to others because of their failed relationship. Now, Ji-won was very sad, and she couldn't find comfort from the people who tried to help her. She even avoided Do-hoon, who wanted to be there for her. To make matters worse, when Sungyu waited for her outside her house, Ji-won spoke harshly to him, asking him not to see her again. She said Sungyu had also shattered all the dreams she had been fighting for over the years. Fast forward a week after that incident, Ji-won had come to terms with the bitter reality she faced. There she met Hae-ryung, who had changed her appearance. At that time, Ji-won didn't blame Hae-ryung for what happened, because she believed any woman wouldn't accept losing her lover to another woman. She also felt responsible for not confirming that Sungyu had a girlfriend before. Afterward, Ji-won invited Do-hoon to meet at their usual laundromat spot. During their meeting, Do-hoon encouraged her to rise above her current failure. He told her that failure is a part of life for anyone striving to achieve their dreams. He even gave Ji-won the first edition of the comic she had written, making her feel proud. Hearing this, her mood suddenly lifted. After Ji-won met with Do-hoon, she managed to overcome her tough times. She now spends her days having fun with her two best friends, often having drinks together. On the other hand, Sungyu, who is currently jobless, is happy to hear that Ji-won is about to release her new webtoon, How to Be 30, which she worked on with Do-hoon. After a month, How to Be 30 has become very popular. To celebrate Ji-won's success, she and her friends Runju and Young have another fun drinking session. But before they start, Do-hoon, who is now Ji-won's official boyfriend, pays them a visit. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is never trust a man who can't commit and already has a girlfriend, but instead, always trust a friend with a bottle of soju and good advice.